This picture of an Italian naval ship picking up migrants in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea has become more and more normal over the last few years. The sheer amount of immigrants trying to climb onto these fragile boats to get to Europe is staggering, and Europe is on the brink of another migrant crisis just like the one in 2015, and no one's talking about it. Typically, these immigrants are coming by boat from North Africa to Europe, but recently, with threats from President Erdogan of Turkey, we are seeing a bunch of Syrians taking the longer and more dangerous journey all the way from Syria by boat to Europe. Erdogan recently said that he will place more than 1 million Syrian refugees in this so-called safe zone in between Turkey and Syria. The only problem is that this isn't a safe zone at all. All of these people from Syria know it, so now a lot of them are being reported of taking this journey all the way from Syria by boat to Europe. Now, Greece is already on the brink of economic collapse, and another wave of Syrian and North African immigrants would ensure that. On top of all of that, a bunch of nations in Europe are taking a much harder stance on illegal immigration into Europe, so Greece is not getting the help that they need to manage all of these people. Meanwhile, people are losing faith in the EU, the European Union, to handle this whole situation. So now you're beginning to see why this migrant crisis could be even more devastating than the first one in 2015. I know it's complicated, but in this video we will take it down to a more understandable and hopefully informative level. So stay with me, we begin right after the intro. Alright, thank you very much for checking out my video. Before we get into the first article, I just want to say that I understand the subject of immigration can be a subject that divides people. I'm not here to tell you how to think. Obviously, you can do that for yourself. But I am here to inform you on where the issue is today. Because for some reason, the mainstream news just doesn't cover it at all anymore. So most of these new waves from Northern Africa are coming into Greece now. It used to be that they would split them pretty much evenly between Spain, Italy and Greece. But Spain and Italy during the Corona lockdown was successful in implementing new laws that would make it pretty much impossible by sea to come in as an illegal immigrant into Spain or Italy. So they were successful in implementing these laws. Greece kind of tried to do the same thing, but the problem for Greece is that since 8 years ago, when they had their huge financial crisis, they still haven't been able to enforce these laws. So now, instead of getting just a portion of the illegal immigrants from North Africa, or just immigrants, they are actually getting the majority of them. Almost all of them are coming to Greece. So let's take a look at this The Guardian article. Greece has a deadly new migration policy and all of Europe is to blame. Every time Athens pushes a refugee boat away, it's the result of an entire continent acting in its perceived self-interest. Alright, so right off the bat, obviously this is a provocative title, but it kind of comes from the viewpoint that since Greece is part of the EU, the member states of EU are supposed to help them out with this migrant crisis that they are facing. But as we will take a look at soon, people are not really having a favorable view of how the EU handled the 2015 migrant crisis and how they're handling this one now. Let's read on. A vital part of international refugee law is the principle of non-refoulement, the idea that states should not push people seeking asylum back to unsafe countries. In a country like the UK, which does not sit next to a war zone, advocates of tougher policies to deter asylum seekers will claim that the principle does not apply, since people who reach Britain's shores will have passed through several peaceful countries before they get there. But if every country looks only to its own interests, and behaves as if asylum seekers are someone else's problem, then you very quickly end up with a system that traps people in situations where their lives are at risk. That is the system bequeathed by Europe's panicked response to the 2015 refugee crisis, and in recent months, partly under cover of the emergency conditions imposed by the coronavirus pandemic, it has got worse. So obviously, all nations are financially hurting during these pandemic times, and that's made all of these nations stop taking in immigrants, or at least put it to a very near halt. That means that usually when Greece, Italy, and Spain are receiving all of these immigrants and refugees, these countries would assist them, take them out gradually, but now they've shut down the borders effectively, leaving, usually this would be Greece, Italy, and Spain, but now leaving Greece alone to bear the burden of all of it. And so that led to the inevitable, which is this. The revelation by the New York Times that Greece has secretly expelled more than 1,000 asylum seekers, abandoning many of them on inflatable life rafts in the Aegean Sea. I hope that's how you say it. Is the latest example of this disturbing trend. Since 2015, Greece has effectively been used by the rest of the EU as a buffer zone against unwanted migration, leaving thousands of refugees in unsanitary camps on islands in the Aegean and on the mainland. At the same time, a hastily arranged EU deal with Turkey saw the latter agree to act as border cop on Europe's behalf, preventing refugees from crossing to Greece in return for financial aid and other diplomatic concessions. So on top of all of this, Turkey, through President Erdogan, agreed to be the border cop so that at least all of the refugees of Syria wouldn't have to take that dangerous journey and come all the way to Europe at a time where Europe couldn't take them. So Turkey agreed to be the border cop. But I don't understand who signed this agreement, because we all know that Erdogan has been threatening over the last 5 years to release migrants and refugees into Europe in mass if he doesn't get what he wants. Now, sometimes that's financial aid to actually help the people that he has decided to contain within his country, refugees and migrants from Syria. But other times it's been just financial aid to Turkey as a whole, without any direction for the money to go to the refugees. So now that you know what predicament Greece is in and that they've hired Turkey to be the border cop, take a look at this. Erdogan says Turkey aims to settle 1 million refugees in Syria offensive area. Turkey aims to settle 1 million Syrian refugees, war refugees, in the area of northern Syria, where it carried out a military incursion in October, President Tayyip Erdogan said on Monday. So Erdogan is looking to settle more than 1 million Syrian refugees into this so-called safe zone. Only it's not a safe zone at all. Take a look at this. Turkey and its Syrian rebel allies launched the offensive against the Kurdish YPG militia, which Ankara views as a terrorist group, after seizing a strip of land inside Syria, 120 kilometers long and around 30 kilometers wide, running from the town of Ras Al Ain to Tel Abyad. Turkey signed separate deals with the United States and Russia to halt its assault. In other words, they're planning to settle more than 1 million refugees into this offensive area that they just took over from a rebel group, or they call it a terrorist group. They just pushed them back from this military zone. They pushed them back into a certain place, and in between them and the terrorists, they're gonna settle 1 million refugees. Doesn't really sound like a good idea, does it? Well, so now we have reports of these Syrian boats leaving Syria, coming all the way to Greece through the dangerous journey through the water, because they're not traveling by these ships. Oftentimes it's these inflatable boats, and it just takes the least amount of damage for them to capsize and die in the cold waters. They take this horrible long journey because obviously a lot of them don't want to be captured or be settled right in between a terrorist group and a foreign country. So they decide that they could have a better life in Europe, and they try to take the long journey, the long desperate journey. And I mean, you can't blame these Syrian refugees for wanting a better life, but it explains why Greece is seeing a massive uptick in Syrian refugees coming right now during these weeks at this time. The untold story here is of all of these people who are refugees, of how they come to Greece and then they're being forced back from where they came from. Greece is kind of caught in the middle because they've been flooded for so long. They already have an economy that could collapse at any moment. They just can't take in any more people, and obviously no one wants to send people back on that dangerous journey, knowing where they came from, knowing that it's hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of travel in a very fragile boat. Keep in mind that there probably isn't a good solution to all of this, but that's the whole Greece thing. That's one side of the issue. The other side of the issue is the other countries that have decided to shut down the borders and not, at least for now, help anyone because they can't barely take care of themselves. So they had to shut down their borders. Now the EU is trying to force these countries to help a situation like Greece that have all of these migrants coming in. So the EU is massively overstepping its boundaries because they're not just asking them, they're trying to force their will on other nations whose people already decided that they wouldn't help Greece. I think this has been happening for a long time, but it does feel like people are now quickly losing trust in the EU. Take a look at this. Europeans credit EU with promoting peace and prosperity, but say Brussels is out of touch with its citizens. Many worried about long-term economic forecast impact of immigration. That's what we're talking about here. Take a look at this. Europeans say Brussels promote peace, democracy and prosperity, but fails to grasp citizens' needs. This graph shows really well how people believe that the EU is doing well when it comes to promoting peace, promotes democratic values, promotes prosperity, but it also shows that people are losing faith in the EU because they say that the EU is too intrusive. They say the EU is ineffective and they do not understand the needs of its citizens. I don't know, man. Greece is going to need help if they want to help out more immigrants and refugees come into Europe. Otherwise, they're going to keep sending them away at the border. But the problem is that there's no one able to help them out right now. All of the nations of Europe are all struggling with their own issues, and they're only now beginning to get back on their feet. I always was in favor of helping out these nations within their own nations, of setting up these refugee camps, providing the necessary resources and aid. But obviously the problem is that once you give these countries the resources that they need, they often end up going to corrupted officials or going to different places where they weren't intended. So the actual people in need are only receiving a small percentage, if anything, out of all of the money that often we send to these nations. But there you have it. Tough story with a lot of issues. As always, I don't know everything about this, obviously, because it's so difficult to find a solution for. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the issue in the comment section below on this video, and I will make sure to respond to you. I always enjoy interacting with you guys. You always provide a different angle or something that I hadn't paid attention to. So I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you like this kind of video, remember to subscribe to my channel. I do them as often as I can, but I would like to get to a place where I do them every single day to provide you guys with the important, undercovered international news of the day. The best way you can help me is to share my videos As you might have noticed, in the right side of the recommended section of this video will be almost exclusively mainstream news, Fox News, CNN, whatever the local news station in your country is. Probably that's what you're seeing on the right side. That means I'm not getting any views, I'm not getting any recommended videos. So the best way you can help me, and it really helps me out a lot, is to share this video if you found the information useful. That really helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Have a really good day and God bless you.